Out of a global pandemic, CIOs, that are Chief Information Officers, are dealing with a new set of challenges in running a business in South Africa. From load shedding to cable theft and even service providers being hit by ransomware attacks. Keeping a business afloat, particularly one that relies on technology in these tough, challenging circumstances, takes great skill. Now, Fikile Sibiya, the Chief Information Officer at E4, a software-on-demand company, understands the challenges better than most with software that needs to be available to customers 24/7. She has wonderful insight to share about being proactive and having contingency plans. And she joins us now in studio. Fikile, very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Simpiwe.
And we talk everything tech today.
Exciting stuff.
Very exciting stuff, I must say. First of all, I did mention that, so many companies suffer huge blows as a result of load shedding, cable theft and ransomware attacks. Just take us through in greater detail some of the challenges faced by companies, especially in the tech sector.
Yeah, so Simpiwe, I think it's quite challenging at these times to operate anything tech. Because, to have tech, you need electricity.
Of course.
And you need security. But I think, the great thing is that coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of CIOs were prepared to deal with the challenges that we now face. Because what COVID-19 essentially put before us was the need to be prepared for continuity in real time. So we had to practice business continuity in real time. And so the load shedding and the extended, security threat landscape is just an extension of that preparedness.
Yeah.
So I think if you pivoted properly during the COVID-19 pandemic, the load shedding is just a continuation of the work that we had to do 3 years ago.
I see you've touched in greater detail on the preparation and the preparedness, especially by the CIOs. And preparedness and preparation, of course, is a very pivotal point in running a business.
Absolutely.
So how then do companies, the SMEs and all other companies relying on technology, have contingency plans in terms of making sure that they are prepared for any eventualities?
So, I think that's a very important point. Running tech involves a whole lot of facets. And one of the most important item is, how do I make sure that my system can continue if I run into disasters? And load shedding is, for a tech company, a disaster. So what you need to do is to ensure that you've got sufficient, backup plans or sufficient redundancy. As an example, if you're running on a main Eskom grid, you cannot do that right now. You need to have a generator or, have some other form of electricity supply so that when we are in load shedding, your business is able to continue. Yeah. I think another important point is we live in an era where there's an abundance of technology. So CIOs have an option, to remove some of the risk from their companies or from themselves in leveraging technologies such as cloud, infrastructure as a service or software as a service, where the risk essentially sits with somebody who is way more capacitated to continue in an event of a disaster. So as an example, you don't need to host your own infrastructure in your premises. You can hand it over to somebody that has got the capacity and the capability to continue when there is load shedding. So they've got more than sufficient diesel supply, they've got more than sufficient water supply, and so they can carry you in such eventualities.
I quite like the point that you made that, we've got abundance, or rather an abundance of technology. But then how do we ensure that we distinguish between harmful technology and technology that is very useful?
So, it goes back to ensuring that you vet the vendor. So you don't want to go and find, a Fikile or Simpiwe on a street corner, with no track record. So I think that vendor due diligence is quite important. Understanding that you're dealing with a reputable vendor, as well as understanding their track record, in providing technology solutions. Yeah.
We can't avoid problems. Problems will always be there. And the best way is how to navigate around any particular terrain. And the most important is building resilience. How then do we?
So building resilience has got many different forms. But the first one is around redundancy. So ensuring that you have redundant lines. You spoke earlier about cable theft,
yes,
around, fiber lines. So, there's many fiber providers. How you build resilience is in ensuring that you don't rely on one supplier.
True.
So, if telecom goes down, somebody else needs to be able to pick you up, because what are the chances that everybody will go up, down at the same time?
Yeah.
So that's, in that redundancy is how you build resilience. The second one is in having a mix or a hybrid of solutions. So sometimes you're going to need to be on-premise, where you have your infrastructure on-premise in your premises or somebody else's, and at times you need cloud solutions where your software continues even when you don't have certain elements like power, fiber, etc. An example is 2020 COVID-19, we all relied on the likes of Zoom, Microsoft Teams that are hosted even outside of South Africa. And so that gives you that resiliency, because if you cannot provision from your premises, you're able to then rely on somebody else who's even offshore. So the risks that sit in South Africa don't impact you as much.
And apart from risk management, of course, we have to talk about customizing your technology, picking the right technology for your organization,
Correct.
and chief of which is cybersecurity. And
Yes.
I see that so many companies fail in that regard when it comes to cybersecurity. Well, for a multiplicity of reasons, because of unaffordability, because cybersecurity can be very, very, expensive.
That's true.
But very, very important, to shield any organization from cyber attacks.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely important, because you rightfully say it is expensive, and we cannot get away from the cost. But I always say weigh the cost versus the risk of losing your entire platform. And it happens. You're hit by ransomware, you're here today and gone tomorrow.
Yep.
It has happened to certain businesses that we've seen. But the important thing is to get the basics right, I always say.
True.
So you don't have to have a Rolls Royce of a security program or a security baseline like some of the major organizations, but have the basics. Antivirus, is a basic, and people take it for granted. But that can shield you from, some harmful eventualities, because the threat landscape is, admittably quite vast at the moment, and technology is global. So anything that sits in Russia or Ukraine or wherever impacts us in South Africa as well. So you cannot ignore at least having the basic baseline of cybersecurity in your organization.
And avoid those links, clicking on those links.
Avoid clicking on the awareness is important. You mean rightfully.
Definitely.
Making your staff aware, making your employees aware of, how do they use technology? What are the risks that come with using technology?
Right.
And how do they protect themselves? So we've got remote work at the moment where people are working from home. What Wi-Fi's are they accessing?
Sure.
There's exposures in all of that. And creating that continuous awareness and bringing people closer to the realities of cybersecurity is quite important.
We definitely need a follow-up conversation with regards to that.
Thank
We'll
you,
invite you back again, sometime to talk about, how to shield ourselves from harmful Wi-Fis, because you can be susceptible to cyber attacks as a result of Wi-Fis that are not safe.
Absolutely.
Great chatting to you. Thank you so much for that.
Great. Thank you, Superior.
Good stuff. Well, that was E4, a software on-demand company chief information officer, Fikile Sibiya, talking to us about dealing with a new set of challenges and running a business in South Africa.